Hey guys, it's Chris with Cold Glitter. I get asked so often how I make these cups. So I thought I would do a video and explain to you guys a little bit more. The materials that we need are going to be, most importantly, the template tape. This is a double-sided sheet of adhesive. One side is blue, one side is white. It comes with 10 sheets in a pack. They are 12 by 17. I can get 2 cups out of every sheet. This is clear. You peel off the white layer and there is adhesive underneath there. Likewise, you peel off the back layer, there is adhesive. So you have this clear piece stuck in between. One side of this sticks to your cup. The other side of this is what your glitter sticks to. Also, this is optional, vinyl. I use this every single time I do a tumbler. This is just a big roll of vinyl. I'll have all the supplies linked in the description. But I keep my vinyl in black and white, glossy or matte. It does not make a difference. I use both depending on what I'm doing. We'll also need a weeding pen. I glittered mine. I have a couple different ones that I use. When you buy them on the website, they look like this. The tip of these, very pointy, very sharp. And the benefit is when you poke through your adhesive, like you don't have a very wide point like you do with a Cricut tool, for example. This will actually go through, and as you're working, you can actually poke several different pieces and weed them all at the same time. So you can do 3 in one go. You can do more in one go. So you can get through your project, especially these libraries, really quick. The last thing you'll need is some sort of cutting machine, whether that be Silhouette or Cricut or whatever your preference is, and of course some device to operate it. You can use your phone. In this example, I'll be showing you on the laptop. And you also need a cutting mat. Me personally, I use the 24-inch mats. So I can fit a whole sheet of template tape on one mat and cut 2 templates at a time. You can use 12-inch, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just my preference. Going in with a little more detail with a few things. Template tape. You can get this tape. It's also known as cat scratch tape. You can get it on Amazon. They usually come, I want to say it's about 10 sheets, but be mindful when you do that. One of the primary reasons you should be mindful is cat scratch tape is designed to go on the side of furniture. It's not designed to be used the way that we're using it. And that's important because you'll have some sheets that are full-size sheets, but some of those 10 sheets that they say you're getting are maybe about this wide, or they'll come in different sizes because they're meant to go on the tops of arms of furniture and that sort of thing. It's to keep cats from scratching the furniture. So while you can get it on Amazon, be mindful of the sizes when you do that. Also, this tape specifically, the white layer on the top of this tape is thicker than the traditional cat scratch you're going to get on Amazon. And that is important during the weeding process because the pieces won't move around so much. The other variable to keep the pieces from moving around when you're cutting is the level of tack that's actually on the adhesive itself. This sticky layer is stickier than the traditional cat scratch that you're going to get on Amazon, which helps to keep your pieces not only in place, but as you're glittering your project, it'll give you better coverage because more glitter will stick versus the less tack. This is all over a white base and you cannot see through this glitter. So, and this is done with this tape. So it's something to be mindful of. As far as the pieces moving around, that's more likely to happen on a detailed template, like what I just showed you, and not so much on, let's say, mermaid scales or dragon scales, that sort of thing. The vinyl itself, when I use vinyl on my cups for template tumblers, I'm actually using vinyl underneath the tape. I will roll out my vinyl and then I'll apply my sheet of template tape on top of that vinyl, and then I will run it through my Cricut to actually cut my design. That's beneficial for several reasons. One is I do not have to base paint my cup. When I do my cups, I leave my bottoms exposed. So I don't have to worry about taping this off and spray painting it and waiting for it to dry. I can just apply white vinyl for a white base coat, and then I'm good to go. I don't have to wait. I can go right into my project. Another reason vinyl is useful is it's removable. This is actually permanent vinyl. You can use removable vinyl if you want to. And when I say removable, if you wrap this template around your cup and it's not positioned exactly correctly and the edges of your design don't line up perfectly, if you try to remove this and reposition this, it's going to tear into pieces. They will be the same size and cut as the template pieces that you cut. Like, you'll rip it apart. It will be in the shape of books and skulls and whatever else your project is. Vinyl, it gives you a solid base. Your adhesive is not going to rip. It will actually pull back up. You have to be careful when you do it because you don't want to kind of bend and stretch everything, but it is possible to lift it back up and reposition it. And you cannot do that if you just have this tape on there. So it's not required to use vinyl, but I like it. It also helps if you're having problems getting your cut settings right on your machine. If it's cutting too deep, having vinyl underneath it makes your template tape essentially thicker. So it won't be cutting all the way through anymore because this gives it extra height. The other benefit kind of goes back to not having to tape off your cups, because without having epoxy on the bottom, you don't have to worry about your customers dropping their cup, chipping their corners. But again, completely personal preference. You do not need vinyl. You can use just the tape. I just prefer to use vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and do a tumbler with you guys from start to finish, getting your design onto your mat and cut. First thing I do is apply my vinyl. Today, I'm going to be experimenting with black vinyl under my Galaxy tumbler. Usually I use white vinyl, but I don't think that I have to. I think I can use black. And black is useful if you can use black, like if you're using metallic glitter and it gives you good coverage, because when you weed your pieces off of your cup, your top layer is white, but when you weed it, you'll see black. So it's easy to recognize when you've actually weeded a piece versus wondering whether or not you got that one. So black is useful in that area. When I apply my vinyl to my mat, it's very easy with it being a huge piece of adhesive exposed. I just roll part of my mat down and stick my vinyl roll on top of it. That way I don't have to worry about everything sticking all the time. So I just position this into place. And stick that down. And then I pull this and let it go. Now keep in mind your template tape is 17 inches. So you do need to go down to 17 inches. If you're doing two templates, even then it's usually about 15 inches. I go down to 17 anyway, and I just save my scraps in case I want to do like a border instead of the whole template. From here, I go ahead and apply my tape on top of my vinyl. For the same reason as I kept the clear protective layer over the mat, I'm going to keep most of my backing on my tape. So I'm just going to create a little hinge here so it doesn't stick. You can see through the blue here and see the edge of this black. So it will kind of help you line up the edge and get this exactly where it needs to be. I also save my empty vinyl rolls for specifically this. As I'm pulling away my adhesive, I'll take my empty roll and just push it down. And then we are good to go. You can just cut this off. You can use scissors, you can use cutter. I just use an X-Acto knife. And that is that. You are good to go ahead and cut your design. So I'm going to go through the whole process of using Cricut with you guys. My screen is a little reflective. I can't avoid it. I apologize. To start, no, I don't use Silhouette. I use Cricut. So I can't walk through this process on a Silhouette, unfortunately. We're going to go and make a new project. And then we are going to upload a file. You can use whatever template you want. I am going to go and pull the Trippy Hippie template. Okay, so when you get here, for templates, it does not matter which one of these you select. This determines the color range in your photo. Ours is black and white, so you can choose any option that you want. Here, we do not need to do anything. We can click on apply and continue. When we get to this screen, we do not need print and cut. We do not need to use our printer at all. We're only using the Cricut, so we're going to choose cut image and then upload. From here, we're going to choose the image we just uploaded and click add to canvas. When you import the image, it's going to be pretty large. So all we need to do is to resize it according to the cup it's going on. When you go to a listing on your device, I actually have the description for the sizes that I have available, and it will tell you to resize to a width of 9.15 inches and a length of 8.25 inches for the 20 ounce. And that's available for all the different sizes the template is available in. So we're going to go up here and we're going to click on this little lock icon until the lock is closed. What that does is it locks the dimensions of your project. So if I resize this, it will keep the dimensions exactly the same. If I unlock this, then I can change the width and change the height. It's not going to keep it safe for me, and I don't want to do that. So with the dimensions locked, we'll go ahead and change our width to 9.15 and click enter, and that will automatically adjust the rest of the template for us. So from here, we're going to click make it. Usually I'm cutting 2 templates at once. So I would use the 24-inch mat. Today I'm only doing 1, so I will have a significant amount of template tape left over, but that's fine. I will save it and use it for my next project. I'm okay with this being in the corner, otherwise you would move it to wherever you would like it to be. So we're going to click on continue, and this is where we choose our cut settings. I recommend using vinyl. This is what works best for me. Now there are a lot of variables that determine what your cut settings need to be. One of the major variables is whether or not you have a new blade in your machine. Without a new blade, you're going to need a harder cut setting. It's going to need to cut deeper because the quality of the blade isn't what it used to be. I can usually do about 40 to 60 templates before I have to change my blade, but the only thing I ever cut is template tape and vinyl. If you're using your blade for anything else and you're thinking about maybe about time to change it, I highly recommend changing it just to be safe. Otherwise, if you have problems with your cut settings, check the description. I am including a link to a page on the website that I created, and that link will show you all of the different cut settings and what the pressures are. So it will show you if you're on a vinyl cut setting, it will tell you numerically what that pressure setting is, so you know if you need to go weaker or stronger depending on if it's cutting too deep or not cutting deep enough. And that will help you determine exactly what cut settings will work for you. The template tape that you use is also another variable. I'm obviously using mine, so I do recommend vinyl for that. So I'm going to click on vinyl here. I use the default pressure. When I get to the point where my blade needs to be changed, if I don't want to change it at the moment, I will just change this to more pressure. But right now, I'm just going to use default. I'm going to go ahead and load my mat in the machine, and we'll get this cut. Now we have our template cut. We're going to remove it. And you would think that would be the easy part, which it is the easy part. But there is a rule I like to follow. Instead of removing the template from the mat, I remove my mat from my template. And the reason I do this is because as I'm removing this, This is going to bend and roll. I want this to bend and roll. I do not want this to bend and roll. Because when this bends, you're forming a U shape with your paper. Now, while as a whole, the template will lay flat again, the individual pieces are going to remember that curve, and they will hold the shape of that curve. So when you go to glitter your tumbler, if your pieces are curved up on the side, you're gonna get glitter on the sides where you don't want them. So we wanna try and keep our template flat as we're working. So it's for that reason that I will remove my mat, not my template. Now that this is cut, you can see our design is cut into this here. We are going to cut all of our excess off because we don't need that. To do that, you are going to use your scissors. You can use unnecessarily cool scissors like these that I got off Amazon. I will link them in the description. Or if you have a paper cutter, you can use that, which is what I'm going to do today. So now we have our template. So now that we have our template, we're going to trim it up, and this extra piece we're just going to set aside, and we'll use it for another template another day. As you can tell by looking at this, our template stops here. So we're going to go ahead and take our cutter and trim up our design a little bit more. We want to go edge to edge. Sometimes you'll have some pieces that are a little bit lifty, the finer cut designs. It's fine. You can poke them back down. That won't hurt anything. Be mindful if your designs have a little wiggle room. In this case, if I cut right up against this specific template, I'm actually going to be cutting it too short. This template is designed to have some blank space on the side, which helps when it comes time to lining up your cup. You don't have to worry about getting it exactly perfect. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room there. Now that we have cut our template and trimmed it up, I have a little piece of excess here. I'm going to save this in case I ever want to take part of a template and cut this and use it as like a partial design on the tumbler. We're going to get into how to apply this straight to your cup, which is something a lot of you guys ask me, and it's actually a lot easier than you realize. For this, we're going to use our unnecessarily cool scissors and our weeding tool. We're going to peel the backing off of the vinyl. We're not going to peel it all the way off. Just going to peel a section of it away. And this is to prepare for the application process. We're going to cut this, but we're not going to cut it all the way off of our template. We're just going to make a little hinge and stick it right back down. This is so we can position it correctly on our cup without it sticking to anything. And this might take you a minute to get it lined up. There's nothing wrong with that. Perfectly normal, and do it too. Sometimes I get lucky and can do it in one go. So once we get it in place, you're actually going to hold this side, which does not have the loose piece on it, and you're going to let the side go. And it's okay because we're holding this template in place. It's not going anywhere. So we're going to take the strip that we just cut and we're going to completely remove it. And then we're going to wrap our cup with this. And we're going to stick this to our cup, starting with the inside exposed piece. So we're going to stick this section here to our cup first. So we're going to fold it over and slightly stick that very first piece of exposed adhesive down, and then work our way through and stick the rest of it down. From here we can let go of the whole thing because now it's not going anywhere. So we're just going to remove the rest of our adhesive, the rest of our backing, little by little, and work our way through the cup, laying it flat. If you have bubbles between your adhesive and your vinyl, there's nothing wrong with that either, it's fine. You can actually take your pin and you can just pop the bubbles, go all the way through to the tumbler, and just kind of rub the air out. I should have trimmed the bottom of this a little bit more. That's why I'm getting these ripples, because it started to hit the curvature of the cup, which is something that I can work with. I can trim it off. If you have some pieces that have a lot of detail in that area, I would recommend pushing that area, not rubbing that area, because you don't want to move that those template pieces. Then you will just lay this flat, and if you have a little bit of overlap, that's fine. Push it in. Grab your X-Acto knife and trim it up. And you are good to go. If you do have a little gap like this that you're concerned about, don't be concerned about it. I will show you a trick at the end of this video on how to resolve that too. If you have little pieces like this that are kind of lifting, it's fine. Just lay it flat. Sometimes they don't want to, but eventually they will comply. And pieces, especially like this one that's way too small, it really doesn't matter if it lifts or not, it's fine. So this is our completed tumbler, our completed template applied to our tumbler. And we are ready to start glittering. So I decided that I'm gonna go ahead and cut this rippled edge here a little bit shorter, just to make it easier on me later. I have one of these tools where you can adjust the height of the blade with some washers and just kind of run your cup around it to cut it. You can also use an X-Acto knife and just run your cup along that. Just for convenience today, I'm going to use this. I will have this linked in the description. So for these, you just place your cup on it and push it against the blade while you spin your cup. And it does all the work for you. I usually try to go through twice. Occasionally it will cut through just the tape and not the vinyl, so I just go through twice to make sure it gets everything. So we're going to lift the little pieces that were cut. This one didn't cut all the way through, so we'll hit that section again. And there we go. So at this point in the tutorial, we're going to need a few other supplies, one of which is a piece of paper. I just use a 12 by 12 inch piece of cardstock. You can use printer paper, doesn't need to be anything special. This just catches the template pieces from our tumbler and also catches the glitter. We're going to need our weeding pen and a brush to brush off the glitter. I just use a 3-inch chip brush that is glittered for her pleasure. You don't have to, that's me being extra. And I'm also going to use Black Magic for the outline color. One extra thing that you may want that I highly recommend is a desktop vacuum. I have these, I get them from Amazon. I will have them linked in the bio. Mine is messy because I've glittered it several times and then unglittered it several times. I will be glittering it again because all things glittered are amazing. This just has a little button You can turn it on and vacuum up your loose glitter, which you'll see. And it's also rechargeable. They have battery operated as well. I don't recommend those. They go through too much batteries. But that is what we're starting with right now. So as I'm doing template tumblers, I always work with the darkest color first and move on to the lighter colors. So right now, as mentioned, I'm using Black Magic, which is a black glitter. If I were to do this at the end, any white glitter, for example, that's on my cup, it's very likely you would get some black pieces stuck in it and contaminate the areas that have that coloring. So to avoid that, I'll use my light colors last and I'll use my dark ones first. So a little pre-planning helps. I am just going to go through and pull up any pieces that I know I want black. And here you can see, using a black vinyl as your base, it very clearly shows you the areas that you have weeded and have not weeded. Now, you do not always want a black vinyl for your base. If you're using any sort of transparent glitters, translucent glitters, iridescents, you are going to want a white base, or at least a color similar to what you're using. For me, I know this cup is going to be primarily matte glitters, which have excellent coverage over any color base, so I am not concerned with it. But I'm going to go ahead and weed this cup and everything that goes along with it, and then we will move on to the next step in our tutorial. The pieces that I am lifting here, remember the white is part of the template tape. Behind the white is the adhesive from the template tape. Behind the adhesive is the vinyl, which is why we see black. The adhesive is clear, so we don't see it, but it exists. And that adhesive is what our glitter is going to stick to. So everything that I am pulling right now is exposing glue, essentially. Be mindful of the exposed adhesive as you're working too, because you it's okay to touch it a little bit. I'm actually throwing my template pieces to the side for some reason. Ordinarily I don't. I throw them on my paper. I don't know why I'm throwing them to the side. But that way, when it comes time to throw everything away, I can just dump all of it directly in the trash can. With this design, there is supposed to be all the white area that you see here, which is part of the fixture, the bookshelf, is supposed to continue all the way down. The way I cut it, it is not going to continue all the way down. But again, that is okay. Mistakes can happen and we can fix them, and it's good that it happened because now I can show you how to fix them. Granted, it will be at the end of this tutorial because I have to glitter the cup first. Sometimes pieces want to lift like this. It's lifting that centerpiece. It happens occasionally. Just use your resources, use your tools. You'll see in this section here where some of the outline is weeding and some of it isn't. Just take your pen and glide it along. So I think this is everything that I want black. I'm going to take the template pieces and just dump this whole thing in the garbage. And then we're going to move on to glittering. Now, this specific jar of Black Magic is the one that I use for my templates. So there are going to be some little template pieces stuck in there, like you can see. And again, it's fine. You'll hear me say that a lot. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If a piece happens to get stuck to the cup, which occasionally, ignore my watch, occasionally it does, we'll just remove it. No big deal. We're just going to dust the whole cup with our glitter of choice. You can use an arm from your turner for this if you like. I just use my hands. And then rub your glitter in. This will push it into the template and give you better coverage than if you did not rub it in. But do be mindful of doing this when you have different colors on your cup. Specifically lighter colors on your cup, because you can very easily push another color into an existing color, which is another reason why I like to work with my dark colors first. Let's say I just colored my books green and I don't want to push the green glitter into all the other color books that I have. Just rub your finger over the green books and just push it into place. That kind of thing. That way it'll protect your other colors. So this is the mess that we have at the moment. Now we take our brush and we just brush off our cup. We'll move on to our next color. When we are done with our glitter, we will just fold our paper and dump it back into our jar. And this is where our handy dandy little vacuum comes in. We'll just hit our little power button and clean up our mess. And now we're ready to move on to our next color. Look how tiny that little cut is around the beetle bug too. It's almost as wide as the needle on the pen. So with the right cut settings and the right materials and tools, look how thin that one is. You can cut this shit. I'm working with these flat matte ones. I'd be super mindful of what glitter falls on this paper when you like put it back in your jar though, because you will see the individual specks. Wood stuff. You know what? Now when I designed this, because I drew this shit, my goal was to leave a tiny little gap here on the side of these frets so you wouldn't have to weed each one individually. It would weed together. Let's see if it works. Holy shit, it does! That saved. See, it doesn't seem like it would take a lot of time, but it's little things like that that make a difference. The way I fix the seam, because I severely mess this up, I cut my stuff like weird at an angle, so I don't have like the seam going straight through like the yellow like I should. So I have these little bottles in the shop. You get 5 of them for like $3. I just fill it with Mod Podge. It's like a little precision tip on it. You're just gonna draw yourself a little line. My line is crooked, but my line exists. So, and just glitter on top of that. The only thing is, when you brush this off, you have to be careful because it's not dry anymore. So you have to brush beside it, not on top of it, because you'll spread that glue around. That is how you fix your seams. Alright guys, it is the next morning. I got my cup on the turner. I took some electrical tape and kind of cut off the bottom a little bit, marked it off. The seam that we did last night is now dry. So when this comes, there's no epoxy in this yet. So you can see the seams here. I didn't do a perfect job getting the line straight, but I got the color on there, which is fine. So that is good to go. Now, when doing templates, I do recommend sealing your cup with clear spray paint before epoxying. I did not do that on this. This is raw glitter. But feeling this cup, it's flat enough, the glitter is stationary, nothing's loose. I don't have any concerns there, so I'm just going to put epoxy over the raw glitter. If you're not comfortable with that, play it safe. Throw some clear spray paint on there first. I'm just going to go in with epoxy. Alright, so I mixed up some epoxy. I'm going to go ahead and apply it on this cup. Typically, I'm not doing what I typically do. With this sort of thing, not only do I seal it, as I just mentioned, but I also apply a thin layer of epoxy for the first coat. And I kind of let that seal. That way I can go through and sand if I need to sand anything that's poking up. In this case, I'm not. Because all this is flat glitter. I have no larger pieces, no chunky pieces, nothing that could possibly poke up and hinder anything. So I am just going to take my epoxy, as this is my final coat, and epoxy it. And treat it like my final coat. But if you're using anything other than a fine glitter, anything over 1/96 of an inch, which I believe is 3 millimeters, 0.3 millimeters, then I definitely recommend doing a very thin coat first, just to kind of lock everything in there, and that way you can sand it. If there's anything major poking up, you can sand it before your final coat. Here I'm making sure I get good coverage on the metal, top and bottom. And then I'm going to pour the rest of what I got on here, since the whole cup is now covered. When I'm done with this, I'm going to take my heat gun to it, and the first thing I'm going to do is concentrate the heat over the exposed stainless. And I'm doing that because when you get bubbles in your epoxy, It's more notable over the stainless steel than it is over the glitter because of the texture of the glitter. It will mask the bubbles, any micro bubbles that are in there, a lot easier. So you will see me concentrate the heat gun at the base of the cup where the exposed metal is, and then I'll move it to the top of the cup where the exposed metal is, and then I will glide it over the entire cup before leaving it alone to cure. This epoxy that I'm using is called Lightning Cure by the Epoxy Resin Store. It's a very fast curing epoxy. It will be completely cured within 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove my electrical tape down here at the bottom. I use to tape off my cup. When you peel the electrical tape off of a tumbler, there's always one spot on the cup where the seam was in your electrical tape. And you will see your epoxy isn't exactly perfect in that area. It'll actually go down a little bit. So what I do, before I take my glove all the way off, I'll leave it on one of my fingers and kind of rub my hand. I'll keep my hand still and let the cup spin. That way it will smooth out any of those sort of imperfections caused by the seam in the tape. Now I'm going to work with my heat gun. This is the one that I have. Nothing special, just a heat gun with high and low settings. And then we leave this to spin and to cure. To tell you guys a little bit more about the epoxy that I use, it is this stuff. It's called Lightning Cure. You can get it from the Epoxy Resin Store. I have recently become an affiliate for this. I reached out to them because of how much I love this stuff. As you can tell, this is probably the third set that I bought, and I just started using this stuff like a month ago. I've got 2 more sets on the way to me now. I absolutely love it. This is a fast cure epoxy, and when I say fast cure, I mean it is done, ready to go out the door within 2 hours. As it's curing within 15-20 minutes, it's tack free. It's glossy finish, which I'll show you here in a minute with the cup that we did. The mixing ratio is 1:1, just like it always is, and not getting bubbles in this is so much easier than any other epoxy I've used, let alone fast set epoxy. This, your hardener is always the runny mixture when it comes to your resin and your hardeners. This is the resin. The resin is usually the thick part of your mixture. Look at this. Their viscosity is the same. And because of how thin this is, it's so much easier to not get bubbles in your finish. Not only that, but you can finish so many more cups. You can get a new layer on there within 20 minutes. This stuff is phenomenal. And the finish. This is the cup that we just did, using that epoxy. And it's glossy as hell. There's some flaws in my work. You can see it's a little wavy right here. But the epoxy itself is great. And this is our completed cup. Super happy with it. I love the bug, the lava lamp. I love all the little details. The guitar, the pillow, the mushroom lamp, our peace sign. It came out great. So all the details for everything that I use will be linked below in the description. If you have any questions, let me know. You can comment, you can message me, use the website, hit me up on social media. The code for these guys on their website is Cold Glitter Co. I believe it's 10% off that it will save you. Or you can click the link in my bio and any of my social medias, and I'll include it in the description as well. But if you guys have any other questions, hit me up.